We're in Byron Bay today to take a look at the all-new Holden Astra Sedan, packed with tech, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, reversing camera as standard in the 21,990 drive-away entry model. Plus, you've got lane guidance assist in the upper models. This is a brand new car and we're going to take it for a drive. So the last Holden Astra I drove was the hatchback that came into the market, feels like about 6 months ago. But this is actually a very different car. Not only has it got a boot and not a hatch, but it's actually tuned differently. So Holden say they spent 100,000 kilometres of driving here in Australia to tune the gear ratios, the suspension, every little bit of the car. And it's interesting to me because I asked the Holden people, why do they locally tune a car? Aren't cars the same all the way around the world? And it's actually partly because of our road conditions, some of the way the roads crown and the amount of gravel versus bitumen that we have, but it's also partly because of the way we drive and the way we like our cars to feel. We're so used to cars feeling a certain way that that's the way we expect them to be when we drive them. So they retune these cars so they feel a little bit more like an Aussie car. I mean, the stunning thing about this is the price. At $21,990 drive away, the base model Holden Astra Sedan has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and a reversing camera on this 7-inch touchscreen. Now, my simple challenge to people is, if you're about to spend under $25,000 on a small car and you're looking for a sedan, are you actually test driving more than one car? Because so many people run out and buy a Corolla or a Mazda 3 or a Hyundai Elantra i30, which is great, they're all good cars, but are you getting everything you want? And for me, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay are a must-have in a car, because once you realize that you can plug your smartphone in and get everything you need in terms of navigation, audio, your music, your Siri control, I think it adds value to the car. I genuinely do. So if you're not getting that, what are you getting? And look, I know for a fact the infotainment system in some of those other cars are awful compared to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And frankly, Holden's MyLink is nothing to be excited about. It's only great because it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. A few years ago, it was a standout because it was the only thing in the market. But nowadays, you have to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This has it by default in every model. You know, as you go up through the range, you do get some really, really nice features. So lane keep assist is an absolute cracker. And this is the kind of thing you're getting in Volvos and BMWs and the like, but it's starting to trickle down now. Now, lane keep assist, essentially using this Holden eye up on the windscreen, you can see the dots and the lines on the road. And on a freeway, it'll basically keep you in the lane. Now, you're meant to drive yourself, but if you happen to veer a little bit because you're distracted by something, it'll just nudge you back into the lane. Kind of like the bumpers on a bowling alley for kids. So it's a really great safety feature. There's a bunch of little things here I noticed on the freeway driving yesterday. It's got this distance to the car in front measurement. And so basically it's using radar and sensors to work out how many seconds in front of you the car is. So I was getting, it's over 2.5 seconds, then it's 1.8 seconds. And it really made me start to think, hang on a minute, I'm very close to that car. So it's a really nice little feature. They've laid the car out well. The trim levels are excellent. Even in the base model, this is the top of the line model. It's got the leather. It's got everything you need. But I drove the mid-range model yesterday for most of the day. Sensational car, honestly, really nice to drive. And I guess the feeling of the car is not sporty. It's subtle. It's really nice through the corners. It's an easy flow through a winding road. It's a nice gentle ride on the freeway. The acceleration is excellent, and to the gear ratios, they're fantastic. We accelerated out of a corner when there was a lot of traffic trying to get into a gap. I didn't even feel the car change gears. So really nice gear changes. It's a really smooth ride. I honestly can't fault it. And I think if you took this car for a 10-minute test drive, as most people do at a dealership, you'd be hard to fault it. Holden's going through a complete change. Holden has to realign themselves with the Australian public. Holden has to let people know that because they're not manufacturing in Australia, they're still an Aussie brand. The Cruise was manufactured mostly in Australia. This is the replacement for the Holden Cruise. It's not made in Australia, but the Australian engineering and design that's gone into the car is well worth the credibility that Holden have in the Australian market. I think if cars like the Holden Astra are a sign of things to come for Holden, then they're on a good path. They really are. The next generation Commodore will be with us in just 6 months, and that's an exciting time for Holden. And I think if they can bring the kind of ride, the kind of handling that they're getting in a car like this, it's good times for Holden. In the end, price parity for the Holden Astra, pretty much with the Mazda, the Corolla, and the Hyundai. You'll find at some points in times it'll be lower price, at some points it'll be slightly higher, but they're all in that sub $25,000 range. It goes up to about $28,000 if you option it up with everything and you get the top model. But I think at that kind of price, your pocket deserves that you drive every car. So test drive 3 of the 4, Hyundai, Toyota, Mazda, and Holden. Hey, test drive 2 of them and compare them before you make the decision. And make sure you plug your phone into the car in the dealership to let them show you what Apple CarPlay really is, because it is a pretty darn cool infotainment system, and it's standard in the Holden Astra. Oh man, where am I going? So I'll just take it on a little gravel road just to see what it's like here, and like the feeling is exceptional. It's and I think this is a credit to the Aussie tuning of the suspension. It really is gliding over this gravel road. Not like it's a highway, but certainly a lot better than a lot of other cars would, I suggest. I honestly don't think anyone in their right mind could compare a Toyota Corolla, a Mazda 3, a Holden Astra, Hyundai Elantra, and say one of them is better than the other. I think, if you compare drivability, steering, suspension, all those things, most of them are very personal anyway. And so some people would prefer some things to others. I think it really comes down to some simple things. When you get in the car, do you feel comfortable? Do you like the layout? Do you like the ride and handling around a nice city test drive? And do you want certain things as standard? And I think at that price point, people are pretty special about their money. They want to know, what are they getting for the extra $500? What are they getting for that extra $1,000? This is important money. What am I getting? And I think that's what you need to ask yourself when you're comparing those cars, not just in safety features, not just in number of airbags or cylinders or power. Compare what you're getting in the infotainment system. Compare what you're getting in safety features like lane keep assist. And I think it's going to be an interesting battle between those cars. And most critically, take them for a test drive. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Motoring Journo's word for it. Take them for a test drive. Go to the dealership and say, I'm very interested in spending under $25,000 on a small car. I want to drive your Corolla. I want to drive your Mazda. I want to drive your Holden. Take them for a drive on your own and see what it feels like. And have a look, have a play around with those features. Plug your phone in, see how it works, and you might be pretty impressed with one or the other. And I think if people did that, this car would sell in bigger numbers than in the current mood of people where they just go and buy a Mazda or a Toyota because it's the standard, or a Hyundai because they think it's going to be the cheapest. Take a test drive, see what it's like for yourself, and in my mind, check out Apple CarPlay and the safety features of this car, and then stand back, take a look. It's a pretty good looking car.
This is EFTM, everything for the man.